Wait, we have like our own we have that thing now. We could just be like, that's like the thing now. Raph, David, Andreas.
Raph, David, Andreas. Raph, David, Andreas. Raph, David, Andreas. Raph, David, Andreas.
So Raph was sharing this video with me. Welcome to Neuropa. Good to see you, Raph. There was this video, and Raph said, "This is a great video. You'll love it." And then I went to play it, and when you try to play the video, it says video unavailable. This content is not available on this country domain due to a trademark complaint, which is disgusting, really. You know what I mean? Like, think about like what kind of evil psychopaths are like taking like recordings of things and then like keeping people from seeing it, right? Like, that's literally everything we fought against for most of humanity, right? Like, that's kind of like why we're here.
And of course, it's kind of hilarious because what do you finally have AI art for? And then you get copyright stricken on trademarks because you're using tropes or whatever. It's like,
we don't like the general idea.
Someone copyright elves already or whatever. So it's like,
yeah. And what's crazy is all you got to do, though. I mean, like, and I don't know why I thought to do this instantaneously, like a guttural response. Like, all right, we'll try different.
The real question is why you chose a particular top level domain. That's the thing you have to explain.
I was gonna do Belgium because I thought .bay, but like then I thought, you know what, .ru, because they probably don't care about your trademark complaint, right? So, you know, you'd have to usually get a proxy server and pretend you're in Russia or in another country to watch the thing. But no, boom, there it is right there. As soon as I pretended to be from Russia, just type in youtube.russia.ru plus the same link, and then the same video just pulled up, and here are stills from this trademark infringing AI generated masterpiece. That's what you get, StarCraft. That's what you get. You think you can just stop people from seeing? You think you can stop us from seeing? It's too late.
Oh, but it makes sense, you know, because it's now, I think, Blizzard, Activision or whatever, and anyhow, they're only going downhill, so it makes sense that the lawyers
I
are
heard
also
they like.
going insane.
I heard a bunch of bad stuff happen to Blizzard because Blizzard used to be like, let's give them some credit. Like, they were a cool company that made a bunch of amazing. They started out as Silicon.
And
Silicon Synapse.
That's the one they still used on the Lost Vikings, which interestingly enough starts with a UFO abduction. Go figure, programming.
I mean, a lot of these dudes were like wildly based, and they gamed together, right? Like, they spent a lot of time playing games, you know, and saying, hey, everybody who works at Blizzard's got to play games to understand like what games are. And then they unionized, and everything's gone like crazy. It's kind of sad.
It is. You want to go through the links? Just start them up, or
you want to go? You want to go through the? Yeah, I want to go through the links. Of course, I want to.
No, if you want to show them, that's what I want to ask you, basically.
Oh, if you wanted to show them, or if I did. Well, I'm worried because I might lose my place. But yeah, we started with the top link. Here is the link. If you guys go to Kemenczy.com, you can go to the Neuropa lists.
Well, Kemenczy.com, you will probably end up at KemenczyLaw.com is a probably very good litigation lawyer in New Jersey.
They probably have a problem with trade. There's a problem with trademark, so you might want to try Kemenczy.ru also, but I think it's actually where it's at is Kemenczy.at.
It's .at, and also to let everyone know, I recently stumbled across this. There is a domain name scam where a real registrar, in this case, it's even if you just look up domain name scam China, it like shows up everywhere, so it's kind of known to people who were confronted with it. But what's interesting about it is you get a legit email with the correct sender and so on, from, I believe it's CN Networks or something like this. I'll check it in my inbox quickly. And yeah, cnnetworks.net. And what's very strange is they're telling you like, oh, there is a company that would like to register basically your domain, but you know, .com, .cn and whatever else. And then they're saying, yeah, but since you somehow are related with this trademark or with this name, and it's very important to us, do you have any distributors or partners in China? And me, you know, being naive as I am sometimes, at least, I was like, okay, at least the email checks out. It really appears to be, you know, from the proper email account. It's not a spoofed email. It's not a fake link or something. And it appears to be a real registrar in China for domains. So I'm just kind of writing back. I'm like, yeah, there's nothing I have to do with anything in China. So, you know, I don't care. In my case, it's just my name. Although I would be curious, I didn't say that, why you would use such a strange domain name, especially because they're claiming it was for, let me see, I believe Shongshun Limited or something. We have a, so there is basically they're claiming that the company that wants to register these domain names in China is quite important. So in this case, it's like some kind of a known infrastructure company, Hongshun Limited, I believe.
To be fair, I
HONG.
mean, they make all these weird like suitcases and knockoff bags, and they just scramble letters together. Eventually, they're gonna get to Kemenczy, right? Like that's just.
I mean, it's the last place, I think, but
Don't
yeah.
just buy like a pair of socks. Buy some Kemenczys. You know,
So
I'm sure that that's what's going on in
yeah.
China.
So point being, it's a real email, and then I sent back, I'm like, I have nothing to do with any of this, so like I don't know. And then I actually got another.
Remember when
Yes.
Homer Simpson became famous in Japan for Mr. Sparkle, right?
Luckily, no. I only
Okay, so
recently saw this thing like that Simpsons went downhill from season 8, but
there's like
yeah.
yeah, that's true. But one of the best episodes, I think this was season 8. Ironically, I forget. Is that Mr. Sparkle, otherwise known as Misuta Supakoru, is a Japanese dishwashing detergent mascot who kind of is like the Mr. Clean of Japan. And so, it's different, but like just as famous. All right. I mean, so that to me makes a lot of sense. Like David Hasselhoff is more famous in Germany. Maybe you got to be a cleaning product in East Asia, or something like that.
Yeah, so and just to finish the story, so I'm writing them back because they seem like actually seems to be the registrar, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then I get an email from once at 163.com, which is just like a random domain service. And also here it was clear that the name is like you get a random Google address with whatever nickname. And then I get an email from such a domain and somebody claiming to be from Hangshan Limited, but at least here they should also use the proper whatever at hongshan.cn or whatever they would use. But this was obviously like a publicly accessible domain. And then they actually said, yes, so we would like to register these domain names, and we were even advised against it by the registrar, but it's very important to us. Of course, by that point, I didn't reply anymore because it was clear something was up. Then I actually spoke with David, whom we interviewed yesterday. Everyone who wants to see an how do you say, astounding and unique show, distinctive, go watch it.
That was good.
So he helped me understand this quickly, and then a quick Google search pulls it up immediately. But by that point, it was clear it's a scam. And then I think I received even another email from the not from the registrar, but basically it's funny because they don't outright say, "Oh, buy domains from us," but they kind of like pretend as if it's an important trademark for them, and maybe the idea is that they give me fear of missing out, and then I start registering useless domains in China. And make the domain registrar money or something. But I'm like, what kind of a scam is this? And why is this run from the official domain of that registrar? So in this case, it's cnnetworks.net. Let's see, maybe now the site is not even loading anymore, but no, it just takes a time because it's in China. So this is the site. And I can actually, I'll briefly pull it up for you guys just so you can see it. The sophistication of the scam. We have domain registrar. Here we go. So yeah, so this is legit enough, right? And that's what shows up. Okay, I mean here even you see the domain changes, but it is redirect. Oh, now I see the scam. Okay, it's me who's dumb.
Wait, so what is
I didn't notice the F and redirect. I didn't notice the redirect.
Okay.
It was my fault from the beginning. This was not a legit thing, because it was. All right. So here I'll show you guys the email address right here. Just a second. And then
so
we
easy to get
we
you
can
with the
unravel.
Redirect or with some of
Yeah,
these,
yeah. No, they got me with the
fake name
redirect.
on
Here,
the
you look,
email?
because
Yeah.
this was the email, and I didn't check that cnnetworks.net is actually just a redirect, which of course anybody can set up, and it also explains why it takes a second to load properly. So yeah, actually it's all
true.
on me. I just didn't do the due diligence properly, or basically I didn't recheck that thing. Okay.
So like I've
So that's
heard
how I got
also
spoofed.
that there's these scams like China will make sure their website doesn't look too fancy so that it's a believable scam. Like either you think that this is like a legit company because of course China would like, have a website that looks kind of plain like this, you know what I mean? Just a scrolling sheet that doesn't fit your page.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, this probably even is a legit company, but it has nothing to do with the email that I got sent
Yeah.
because it's just a different domain and a redirect. Okay, but so thanks for going through this together. Now it's cleared up. Sorry for boring everyone with
That's
this,
how they get you.
but yeah.
No,
So
I think it's
just
important because people
so
aren't aware how
yes,
big international scams are, and really like that's an entire business, right? And there are probably people that are. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean if it's a redirect that they have to be associated with the Chinese government, but I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these scams are run directly from
you mean
corporations too.
you can only get a redirect if
Well, like yeah, 51% of any company in China has to be owned by the Chinese government, right? So
but
like I feel like they kind of know what they're doing.
it's a .net address, yeah, but still it would be interesting what goes on in the background.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we're through that. Let's see. We're gonna pull up your side again.
Oh yeah.
Now we can actually start. So yeah, the 1st to 14th August is our log list for today.
Wait, is this the wrong link now? What
No,
do I do
no.
here?
You scroll down.
Here we go. 14th of August, right here. Yeah. Yeah. If you go
Yes.
to 14th of August, there's the links for today. We just showed you StarCraft.
So yeah, the first two things is just funny songs that have act like in their. Let's not play it because we're totally gonna get stricken for those. This is strangely enough like some gospel. I had only found this recently when looking it up again. I didn't know. It's pretty fun. And the other one, of course, anyone I guess who's played GTA or something, Fat Larry's band has a really nice beat, I'd say. But yeah.
Interesting. Right.
So what I want to start with today is we have some news. I'm not sure, had you heard about this so-called terrorist attack or prevented attack in Vienna?
No. What happened
Because
here?
supposedly this went around the
Oh, right.
world.
Yeah, of course. There was a Taylor Swift terror attack plot thwarted, and the girls were singing Taylor Swift songs in the streets without Taylor Swift. And there, it was like, man, listen to like the heartwarming like strength of these girls, like in the face of adversity, they still know the lyrics to Taylor Swift songs, you know?
Yes. So what I think is, how should I say, so crazy hypocritical or whatever about this. So of course, we don't need to even mention the idea that there is no, I mean, excuse for violence. This would be a topic unto itself. No one should get threatened if they just want to go entertain themselves, this and that. That's all clear. And no one should be so whatever sad or whatever they are. I even heard, but I haven't researched it yet, that one of the perpetrators said he didn't even want to do it or whatever. I'll have to look much more deeply into this to be able to say anything about that.
So he's an Austrian North Macedonian, what? Both Iraqi teenagers, with the main. Okay, wait. The Iraqi teenager is the third person to be detained and believed to have links with the main suspect, who is an Austrian with North Macedonian roots. What? Why? Why? What are they saying? That North Macedonians want to take
the official
Slavs
story,
that
and there's
Taylor
not
Swift
too much.
is Franz Ferdinand. What do they say?
Yeah, there's not too much detail they give. They just say it's like, at least for public consumption, 119, 117, and 115-year-old or whatever. That all that may be as it may, but just what I see in the general discussion now, how should I say? There is very understandable and justified outrage to say, oh, somebody wanted to attack this and whatever. But then you have these, comics and sketches in newspapers illustrating, in a way, you have Taylor Swift fans on one hand, with colors and rainbows, and on the other hand you have someone where it says Mohammed fan, and you have like rockets and bombs. So what I just want to point out is that this is then serving on a mass scale to give a extremely, I would say, superficial, if not even dangerous view, and cause artificial division, even if it's made in a joking fashion. But they kind of portray like, oh, look, all these, peace-loving, amazing Taylor Swift fans and the evil, angry, violent, basically followers of the Prophet Muhammad, for lack of a better term. And they put it really one-dimensional. And then, of course, what I probably shouldn't be asking about, because then people say yes, and this would be violence, and it's of course it's good nothing happened. On the one hand, they want to use this now to allow, of course, surveillance in Austria. In this case, they wanted to give it to a judge who would be not a persecuting judge, or however you call it, for criminal law, but it would be like a administrative judge. So some people take issue with that. But of course, even the overall idea, and also what I heard in terms of secret services in Austria, of course, in Austria itself, there is no real decoding capacity or anything anyhow. So these things get deferred, I'm pretty sure, primarily to the US, at least from the viewpoint of Austria. And even today, it is still known that there's like some kind of a CIA spy op building somewhere in Vienna and stuff like that. So there is no military bases anymore for a long time, unlike in Germany. But there is, how should I want to say, spyware installed probably all over the place, physically and probably in other ways as well.
This is pretty base. Look at this. Mattarelli got scammed by a fake job that would use actual company sites. Right? There you go. And then instead to say a fake W4. Like, you can, it's amazing. Sorry, wrong button. It's amazing that they're saying, don't tell them about this part. The counterfeit euros, right? Because they tell you that it's pretty rare to have counterfeit euros, whereas, United States currency is maybe like slightly more common, but I think it might be happening soon. Like, if this kid had 21,000 euros, fake euros that he had.
Well, counterfeit euros is a topic unto itself, because if you look closely at the euro design, there is good arguments to be made that even if you actually forge it, what you get in trouble with is copyright, and not actually for forging legal tender. And why that is, everyone can research for themselves. But basically, it just shows if there ever was anything such as, I don't know, basic international law or states-based whatever, we are several levels removed from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as we've seen in the beginning of the show, now it's mainly about copyright, which is a very innovative thing in and of itself, especially how it's used. But let's briefly go back to the whole Taylor Swift situation. So number one, they want to use this as an excuse for surveillance, of course, as always, which is, very lame, because also they really pretending as if a few chats online or whatever would be so dangerous, and as if they wouldn't have any other way to prevent these things, when only a few years ago there was a shooting in Vienna city center. Also very strange, because conveniently enough, like hundreds of policemen were like either training or stationed very close by. So then it almost looked like a big military operation. Also very strange what happened. But also here, the Secret Service in Austria, or however you would call it, not Secret Service, you guys know what I mean? Because in German you say Geheimdienst, which would mean like Secret Service, but in the US that's the bodyguards for the president. What I'm talking about is like the CIA equivalent.
Intelligence, the Secret Intelligence Service.
Yeah, but not Australian. They made the other blunder now.
Which is kangaroos, bro. Kangaroos. All right. Evidence Bureau.
What is this closed down long time ago. That's like
Dang it.
This version.
1850. It looks pretty real though, right? This is probably
it's more based, I'm pretty sure, but
yeah, Evidence Bureau is a cool name.
These are the one that probably effed up the assassination which started the First World War.
Note to self: our next pop hit, it's gonna be like a Bauhaus number.
Evidence
Bureau. Yeah.
So basically, the Austrian intelligence services, when this terror attack happened a few years ago in Vienna, they were warned up front, and they were even told, oh, look, this guy is buying Kalashnikovs and I'm not sure what else. They had several warnings, and still it happened. So not going to comment more on why or what, but just to show how ridiculous this whole situation is.
Let's remind people, because everyone's like classic Z. Yeah, I know. But there's contemporary reason to bring it up. Rad Dad's like, why are they?
No, there is.
Yeah, well, you know about this, right? Because there was,
and that's the next thing before you go on. I wanted to point out is they give this super one-dimensional view, but it's I want to say, at least for the mass, in several ways, it's a misrepresentation. If I show Taylor Swift with rainbow, love, and light, at the other side, I show the Mohammed fan with bombs, because number one, Islam literally means peace. And on the other hand, you have Taylor Swift, which may well be a reincarnation of this effing satanic priest. And you only need to look up how many Grimes, how many times did she dress up as a devil or whatever? And then I'm like, do you guys even have any idea what you're talking about? Of course you don't, but it shows again how on the superficial level it's really sad. I'm gonna see if I find that picture in a second.
Here's why the theory that Taylor Swift is a satanic clone of Xena Shrek absolutely checks out. She's cheer captain, high priestess of the Church of Satan. There was an interview that just came out today, I think, 4 days ago, I'm sorry, with Jordan Peterson interviewing, get ready for it, Xena Shrek,
I saw it. I think
right?
in your group actually. That's why I know about it. Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting that at some sort of a sync with the Taylor Swift concert, which is her new name, by the way, Taylor Swift, that this happened, that there was a Xena Shrek interview with Jordan Peterson. I mean, like, wow. And the entire interview is interesting, but it starts out with him saying, for like a few minutes about her background, because I think he's introducing it to what he assumes a lot of people will be affronted by, the oppositional left. And she's not, right? She's actually a Buddhist, and we'll go into detail on her yogic, her yogi tantric Tibetan beliefs. And so, but that's also important because politically, to be Tibetan is it puts you against the PRC to an extent, right? And there's going to be more things that she says also in terms of East Asian versus Middle Eastern ideology. So it aligns pretty well with what Jordan Peterson's trying to say. It just actually doesn't go very clearly with the conservative right, because the conservative Christian right is a lot like the authoritarian Muslims, right? I've noticed it more and more. And there's going to be kind of a
Wait, you say
pushback against that.
conservative right goes with the authoritarian Muslim, but isn't
Oh, yeah.
Islam traditionally, because even in Austria, it's more like usually left-leaning individuals,
Right. But
let's
in
say being
America,
apologists for whatever would happen. Yeah.
but in America, what you have is like the left-leaning individuals will be apologists for Islam, but Islamic families are conservative families that are keeping conservative values. They want to own property. They want to have a small business. They want to have wives and daughters. You know what I mean? Basically,
Right.
everything that the Christians want, they want to keep certain things off the TV, off the radio, off the streets. There's just a lot of commonality between the Midwest mindset and the Islamic Sharia mindset, right? Like, to be perfectly honest, the differences aren't as extreme as people think. People get hanged, people get shot, people get murdered all the time in America. The people say that try that in a small town. How is that not similar to Sharia, right? So there really is like a lot of conservatives that pretend to be against this thing, that really that opposition kind of shows you they find an equal dynamic. They're like, yeah, that's pretty much the same thing. It's only a little different. I'm a little better than that. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I get. Whereas the opposite is saying, hey, we need to have everything brought out into the limelight. I want to hear every religious belief. I want to have everyone the opportunity to practice their religious beliefs, but not just religious beliefs. Let them build their lives and test their actions. Let their kids
Test
and
their
grandkids
beliefs.
exist. Yeah, exactly. Let them build a commune in the Midwest and survive a few winters,
So luckily, I found this caricature I was talking about. Guys, check it out.
Oh, it's adorable.
So yeah, again, left hand Taylor Swift fans, right hand Mohammed fans, and
It's
yeah,
the same. It's the same picture.
yeah, and people are laughing, but again, there is basically why I just want to bring it up because anyone who's listened to any of your shows or anything I'm doing or is just interested in anything can see how superficial and retarded this actually is. But yeah, people are kind of applauding it or laughing about it. But that's, that's let's say the level of information that you get in the mainstream. Because how many people are gonna see this and laugh about it? How many people really gonna know anything either about Taylor Swift or about Islam?
By the way, we're
So
probably gonna get in trouble because this idiot made it looks like he's drawing a picture of the prophet on his wall. So we're probably gonna get someone upset. But realistically, the idea
no,
that
this is just someone who's wearing a shirt. So
yeah, it's a
I
picture of a
wouldn't worry
guy who
about it.
likes the name. Good call. Good call. It's just it's a
Of
fan.
course.
It's a poster of a fan.
Yes. Yes, it's a fan and a poster with another fan. Yeah, who's wears a
The
turban.
other
So
otherwise, I mean, even including that idea, that's pretty reasonable. A lot of Muslim kids I know have pretty clean rooms, have teddy bears in their rooms, you know what I mean? Are also pretty well trained in the Boy Scouts, right? Like I've known a lot of Muslims in San Jose and Scotts Valley, right? So Robin Williams used to go to the Falafel Hut in Santa Cruz, which was run by Wasim Tariq, which is a friend of mine's dad, essentially. And so they had this amazing, I think they're from, I can't remember. I can't remember if they were Afghani or if they were Palestinian. I think they were Palestinian. But they have just incredible food. And the mom is like, it made me start to learn, because this was right after 2001 when I met them. And they were just the nicest, greatest people, super cool people, and great athletes. And just like, the mom was just like so sophisticated and cultured, right? But stayed in the house all the time. I don't know. It just seemed interesting to me how people treated the Muslims in, that dynamic, because a lot of the Muslims that they were interacting with in California would have been like the ones that could have make it. So they're the best off, and they're a lot of time the most educated and everything else. So there's a real Paris complex where the media is like, it's all terrible. They aren't sending us our best. All this other whole, all this stuff, right? And like for the most part, a lot of the Muslims are pretty chill, because like if they're not back home, probably because they're a little bit more into like the American lifestyle. You know what I mean? Unless it's straight up because we destroyed their country and forced them all to live in a compound.
Let's not talk about that, because that was the last part I wanted to bring up about this is, the complete condemnation of violence, and rightfully so. And I'm like, great, but if it's in the name of some flag, then it doesn't matter how many bombs are being dropped, and this is not in any way, shape, or form put into context or anything like that, or even just condemned in the same way. So it's, of course, it's nothing new, but it's just so ridiculous and crazy.
Rad Dad calling me a simp. I like any prophet. I'm pretty pro prophet. I think, especially when they're misunderstood, right? And so Muhammad's interesting from the Spanish perspective of when people say, "Oh man, Muslims like they just stone people to death." Well, Spanish Inquisition will make you realize Catholics just as bad, probably worse. Will creatively tear you apart for just believing in a slightly different variation of the same God. Remember, there's the same God now. They're just slightly different way of practicing that. They'll kill you for it. In a place where the Muslims used to have peace, where anyone could believe any religion, right? Like during the Spanish Cordoba Caliphate, I would call the Spanish Inquisition the Dark Ages. Before the Catholic period, the Dark Ages of
Yeah, I
Catholicism.
mean, are you familiar with this book? I'm not sure if I brought it up
So I mean, just
before.
saying, it's in them. They have the capacity to be way more civilized, not even just equally civilized, way more civilized, and to tolerate anyone doing anything. So you can't put it all off on Islam, and you can't pretend Christianity is the solution.
I mean, of course, we have to consider this is another time. This would be a different variant, and there has been maybe less sectarianism going on as it is now. Even Nosovsky refers to this idea, what you just mentioned, also about the tariffs and the taxes in the supposed old caliphate.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
and yeah, and this book, so are you familiar with the book called Nathan the Wise?
Sounds familiar, but no, Nathan the Wise. I
I
know
should have
we have a buddy who's Nathan, our buddy Nathan the Wise, or
I should
Moro.
have brought it up before, but
Oh
maybe
yeah, yeah,
actually
it sounds
just
familiar.
see the intro. So basically, this is just a story supposedly from 1873, but it's about the medieval times or whatever. And what just always impressed me about it, we had to read this in school, I guess, in German, right? It's one of
Mm-hmm.
these classics. But basically, it's very obvious. You just have this Jewish guy, Christian and Muslim guy, and they are somehow intertwined. But in the end, they all get along. And I don't think there is any mention of anyone like, wanting to hurt someone else. And I just read this and then I was like, okay, what? So I don't understand. Like, if this is has supposed to have any reality, where are all these issues coming from today? And of course, the more we learn about the fundamentals and the Quran and so on, the more we can understand why that is. But yeah, it was just a somewhat inspiring story where I was like, okay, great. So everyone get along. What's the big deal? But yeah,
Well, I mean, I
people
used
make
to
up
be.
reasons.
I tend to be pretty open minded and try to like reserve judgment on things like that in general. But even with Islam, I was like, yeah, there's probably some. It's the same thing with like I used to believe Saddam Hussein stories, like the wood chipper stuff, until I happened to look into it, find out it's not true. It's literal propaganda the United States invented so they could destroy a country that was listening to, like Blink 182 and had skateboards. Like, it's crazy to think about how advanced and cultured Iraq was when it was destroyed, right? And the same thing with Muhammad. The more you find out, like, the way that they treat Joseph Smith, you're like, wait, that's absolutely nothing like the historical record, right? Same situation probably then with everything down the way. And so even Muhammad, you have to say, well, all of these horrible stories you've heard, probably there's it's easier for me to assume that they're all lies than that they're all true at that point. Anything that like people were saying. Granted, there's probably, humanness to every person, right? Even a prophet is going to have mistakes that they make, right? But I don't think it's fair to just be like, oh, well, this is just, we're going to throw this all away. I don't think we can really do that, especially if billions of people live their life around it. There are more Muslims than there are Chinese people, right? And some of them are Chinese people. So it's crazy how many Muslims there are. At that point, truth isn't even as big of a deal. You're now talking about the effect of belief hitting so many people that they're realizing a world, they're building a world tomorrow will be more that way because they believe it is. So
Yes, and also practicality. So David Hume Jr. has brought this up a few times. I can't verify because I haven't been to such states, but supposedly in Sunni Islam neighborhoods, you don't even need police. There may be different reasons for that, but it may well even be if there is, real strong spiritual religious values and decency inspired by that. Well, if that is true, because what is it about if we want to devolve authority back to humans or to individuals and citizens, all these terms, but to small communities and the people living there instead of some central government somewhere far away, then there have to be systems or at least take inspiration from systems where this actually seems to work. So you actually do not need so much police, emergency services, or whatever. Because if everyone would be looking out for each other and caring for each other, maybe because of a spiritual conviction, then of course you have a chance that you need a lot less of that, which of course, just reduces the overhead and also reduces the amount of
right.
potential
My,
exterior forces infringing into your privacy and just your normal life.
that's the concern, because what people will then say is like, oh man, Islam is this horrible oppressive thing, and now Jordan Peterson with Xena Shrek, and let's focus on Taylor Swift, and like, aren't you glad for the freedom you have to practice religion? And I don't know, am I missing something there? Because it does feel like we're pushing that we're right about this and that they're wrong about something. But what I'm seeing is like a really religious group of people that are pretty, a lot of the Muslims I know are really admirable people. Like I can respect them. And that's not true about every Satanist I know, not true about every secular American I know, right? I can't even say, like, we talk about all the problems about people. What about Jordan Peterson? Like, and God bless him, but like,
The
just
real question is,
humanity.
why is Andrew Tate not wearing a burqa like he's supposed to?
Oh, snap.
But that's for another day. So,
I think we
yeah.
should keep seeding that, though. I think we're going to keep seeding that for everybody. Investigate Andrew's Tate.
All right. So yeah, we can move on from this contentious topic to a different contentious topic, if you like.
Okay. I'm not too worried about it. I don't think anyone's like, if you came here to defend Andrew Tate, you're going to have a bad time. Telecom giant Ericsson continued doing business in areas that fell to ISIS, international reports find, in the new IBM and the Holocaust papers, right? Basically. Isn't that kind of the deal?
Well, it appears, so this was told to me by someone recently at a festival, actually, a Swedish guy who also talked about the importance of the Wallenberg family. We spoke about this together with Alexander about the Bilderberg group
Yeah.
stuff, right? He mentioned Wallenberg, and this very nice Swedish individual, a dentist, explained to me that the amazing thing is you have these scandals going on. So this link, yeah, that's basically it. And the next one, like Ericsson's Iraq crisis deepens after DOJ says deal breached again. Um, but in Sweden, actually, you don't hear anything about this because the Wallenberg family is so powerful. They control all the media and so on. And I was almost like, yay, finally you have an example where it's not some obfuscation through different supposedly government-run companies and industrialists and backdoor deals, but you literally simply have one family where everything ties back together quite officially. And you can even exemplify the power by the fact that probably 95% of the Swedish population are not even aware of that. So I think that's pretty cool and pretty amazing. and then they do these kind of things. I would really like to know on what strange like management, New World Order level these deals happen. Like who's making money off whom, or who's like, oh, I don't care if a few Americans die extra or whatever. Yeah, crazy, but what to say? So,
I feel like there's definitely an effort to corrupt any place or people. So you're like, okay, well, easy. You've got like this really religious group of people. Like it's only gonna take a few generations to, through scarcity, manipulation, bribery, create a power struggle in there. That eventually also to destroy education, make people afraid of everything. It's that way the religion can look really evil and horrible, right? Which is what they've done to Christianity in the United States already. They can do the same thing to Islam.
yeah, that's why they're backwards. It all makes sense. Um, yeah, and the next thing, I'm sure you had brought this up at some
Regressive.
point, how Peter Thiel and Silicon Valley funded the sudden rise of J.D. Vance.
Oh my
And
God. Did you watch the movie yet?
which one?
Oh, what's it called? Rough Stone Rolling or something silly? No, that's Joseph Smith. J.D. Vance movie, something like that though. Hillbilly Elegy. Hillbilly Elegy, directed by Ron Howard, starring Ron Howard's daughter, produced by Ron Howard's money, Ron effing Howard. If there is evil in the world, can you see it? Can you see it? Do dogs trust Ron Howard? I doubt it. Anyway, Ron Howard, he made this film back in 2016 because in 2016, as all the trumpets know, J.D. Vance was an anti-trumpet. He was a never trumper, as he called himself. He said a lot of funny things about having sex with couches, allegedly, and that he wanted to be a woman for a while until his grandma asked him if he wanted to put a penis in his mouth. Basically, the entire Young Sheldon show, Young Sheldon. I feel like even Young Sheldon is predictive programming for this because they're like, oh well, he's a boy genius. He's gonna go to Yale. You know what I mean? And that's basically
Normalize
the
autism. Normalize autism.
he likes to talk about Meemaw, Meemaw, Meemaw. Well, and JD Vance talks about Maymaw, Maymaw, Maymaw. So there's a lot of this Appalachian trigger code that he does, right? JD. I don't know. There's something to it. Also, he's a Marine, which is pretty based. I mean, I'll always be down with that. Look at that adorable little baby face Marine. It's cute. But his mom was a heroin addict. He made this crazy book about it. It was pretty based. And also, he's got some like emotional anger problems, which a wasp in Yale shouldn't have. So I don't know how much he really has those things, or if he just is an outbursting with words. Right? He's good with outbursting with words. So he uses that to say he's like an emotionally charged person. Anyway, he got really into crypto at Yale, was really involved with all of those people like Peter Thiel. And yeah, he's tried to change. He's kind of looked at the IRS as a major problem. It looks like that's influenced Trump, that they need to figure out how they can take back the IRS from the IMF. It's basically its own alien agency at this point. So anyway, he made this movie, Hillbilly Elegy, and at that point he was a never Trumper, and now he's a super Trumper, right? Like he's the freaking vice president. So they had to like hate on this movie. Everyone doesn't want. No one talks about it. Ron Howard is like buried it in the backyard with his other son. You know what I'm saying? And that's the end of Hillbilly Elegy. Even people like my mom. So my freaking mom read that book when it came out because it's an anti-Trump book. Theoretically, because he's a never Trumper. So like, oh, here's a real Republican from Yale who's a never Trumper. And now she's like, but we've always been at war with Oceania. She just hates it all of a sudden. And I think I think I got her to like the movie again because I was like, that's really
The
silly
real
of you.
question is she maybe gonna vote for Trump now because of J.D. Vance?
God, wouldn't that be adorable if you could just swap programming that easily? Who knows? I don't think that's ever in the cards. No.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
but why, the other reason I wanted to bring it up, I didn't research this too thoroughly, but it appears that he's somehow involved with Rumble or something like that. So, in the end, it seems like, again, two moderately useless controller factions, fighting over interpretational sovereignty and whatever
JD
else. And
Vance profits
also,
off Russian propaganda through
and
Rumble. There
And
you
also,
go.
supposedly, if it is true that ever since the takeover of Twitter by Musk, who now is infringing upon your copyright by using X.com, um, actually was
And
banning and
trademark.
censoring more than they ever did before. I don't know if that's correct. I don't know if the statistics, but supposedly from some data. So that is also questionable. How much are the supposed proponents of free speech actually supporting it? What exactly are they banning? I don't know the exact details, but that's another thing to look into. And just kind of strange that it seems like with the VP, you basically buy in some media platforms. I mean, it's useful. Um, yeah, again, to be able to effectively deliver your message to the media.
Real Ryer says these ads are ruthless, and I agree. We need to like figure something out about that. But also, if you're green, is this your member? So like, don't you not have ads then? Isn't that kind of like, aren't they supposed to like let you out of that now because you're like a member? Are they not doing that? What do you even do about YouTube? For the love of God! All right, well, Rumble is a thing, and we are streaming on Rumble right now. Or are we not?
We are not.
Whoops. Okay, the reason I think was
Yes.
because you can only set up a single stream at a time on Rumble, and I already have one set for 8 p.m. So Rumble should let me stream multiple streams. It's really Rumble's fault. However, Rumble did set us up with our own private stream link, so we should be using it like all the time. JD Vance invested like $500,000 into like three
Yeah,
hundred
shouldn't they
thousand.
have enough money for multiple streams now?
They're
Um,
to, they're but they're clearly picking the people that they want to promote, and that's true with Twitter X as well. They're saying, okay, well, there already is like a pool of MSNBC. You saw that Joe Rogan suing MSNBC for the fake Kamala video. Those TikToks there's already a place for people that's saturated with nonsense or with things that they consider not their agenda, right?
now remember, so of course there's no such thing as ad block. However, there is also, of course, everyone, YouTube Premium, it's only $14 a month or something. I don't even know. But the real thing I want to mention, did you know that Odyssey.com stopped using ads? I'm not exactly sure what they're
Really?
gonna do, but of course, many YouTube creators, for good reasons, have synced their accounts to Odyssey. So
We are on
apparently now,
Odyssey. Yeah.
even without any particularities, you can simply go on Odyssey if it's important for you that you don't want to see ads, which I can very much understand. But of
Odyssey's
course,
always
it
been
takes a
based. I'm
time to
really
sync.
sad that they haven't made it bigger. And like I always tried to push Odyssey and say like this
Oh
is
yeah.
the one, this is the one I think I believe in the
And
most.
you did an amazing interview. Everyone check out Kaufman,
Yeah.
Xirtus. You
Although
interviewed the CEO.
Kaufman's no longer the CEO now. I think
Yeah,
he
of
had to
course.
step out
No,
of the
no,
thing because the
no, no.
way the SEC tried to shut it down, man.
I mean, maybe that's part, but also I think at least from the little bit I could glean in terms of how the platform works and the information they send out, they
Yeah.
actually do make an effort to have it decentralized and so on, and therefore
Right.
it makes perfect sense that he would not be the CEO of Odyssey as well, but that this would be a
Yeah.
separate
At this
operation,
point,
let's say.
he's gonna get more into politics, which is cool. Like he's in New Hampshire. You can see him at Pork Fest and things. Jeremy Kaufman's rad. Very outspoken, and sometimes I'm surprised. Like I'm like, wow, I thought I was gonna say something that made you uncomfortable. Man, like he says all this stuff sometimes. I'm like, dang, you trigger happy. But you could also get yourself a Raspberry Pi, install the Pi hole on a SD card, and then it'll just like anytime ever anyone ever tries to take any of your data or like use that data to send you an ad, it will neither let it send out your data nor will it send you an ad. The ad just gets like cut up in the pie.
Based.
So yeah, just put that in between your internet and your Wi-Fi antenna, and you're never gonna see another ad ever again. Sorry, Alphabet.
Yeah. So we can move on
Wait,
if
we
you
did
want.
we did Ericsson. There's another one I wanted to do, which was no, you did Peter Thiel. Taylor Swift was Zena Shrek. Okay. Um, Beast. Who was
Well,
Matthew
no,
North? Oh
yes,
yeah, we know Matthew North.
I actually got these pulled up because I don't think we need audio for any of them, so I can show it.
Okay. Deep
So
Share is great. We love you, Andy. Look at his amazing mane of hair.
exactly, and actually I believe I even listened to most of this, or at least one interview with Brandy Renee as well. So anyone who's into this rabbit hole, check it out. Also, what's very, very strange, at some point they show some kind of excerpt where at a public town hall meeting, somebody calls in with that name and even sounds similar or something and gives some statement. I forgot about, maybe against immigration or something like this. Um, Very strange. But yeah, anyone who's been following up from last time, because Matthew North was the one who did quite some expose on the financial backgrounds of Joe Rogan, for example. And then officially he died, I guess, or he was killed. So it's, yeah, it's a rabbit hole. And I was just surprised and delighted, of course, to know that Andy actually did something about this quite recently. So anyone who's interested, you can go check this out.
Let me
Then
answer
yes,
a question from the audience about YouTube. I guess this is my opportunity to like do Google some good. Yes, if he says Jolly Carver says I've never used YouTube Premium. Can you run on multiple devices on the same account? Yes, you can run it on anything you're plugged into. You can go to your friend's house and log in on their TV and run it off your phone. You can right, but also you get 4 to 6 accounts. You can connect to your premium account like a family plan. So you can also have like you can divide it up like for like your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or your kids, or your family, or something like that, and have it on different email addresses so that there's different accounts that are all sharing the same premium. So you get like 4 to 6 with it. If you were to do that, it's probably worth it for that reason. All right.
yes. So we got this, then we got another video with Brandy. So I'm just, putting these up there to anyone who wants to research the rabbit hole. It's there for the Matthew North stuff relation to Joe Rogan. And then, and I really actually don't want to talk too long or too much about this because we brought it up last time. So we got this whole MrBeast dog pack situation. I'm wondering what did I even want to say about this? Just, yeah, anyone who wants to really know about it, you can watch some of those videos. I'm just gonna say all of it looks really bad.
I mean,
Um,
what looks bad though? Dog pack or beast? To me, it looks like dog pack looks bad.
Beast,
Beast looks
and
the normal.
also, and this may be the most interesting video of all of them, from this interesting channel called That Surprise Witness TV, because she's basically pointing out that you have very, very interesting deals between so-called Mr. Beast and his mother, who at least for 20 years was working for the US military as a prison ward. And then very early on, they signed different NDAs, whereas basically his mother would have the control over the accounts. And now anybody can tell me who believes that there can be a channel that regularly gets 100 million plus views that does not have some kind of a relationship with agencies that are concerned with propagandizing the American or the worldwide public. Whoever wants to believe that can, but this is a really interesting lead, I would say, and probably the most interesting out of these few videos right there. Um, then you have, yeah, I mean, there's all these drama channels make 100 million movies about this. Be careful when you start because then that's all you're gonna get recommended, as you can see here. Um,
What did you
and
expect from the Carolinas? You understand? You found it, didn't you? I was gonna just pull that up.
okay.
Like, 'cause
Um,
I thought everybody knew this. Like, that's kind of the deal. That's one of the reasons why he's so loved in America. Shocker, because he's like an all-American boy, single mom from the East Coast instead of California, not from New York. You know what I mean? Not from Florida. Like, this Carolinas are just some on the up and up, very military place, right?
I'm sure it's
Very
all
like,
very,
and people
I'm
call it
sure
like
it's all
a
very
vacation.
military in the end.
They call it a
And
vacation town, but it's like a shore leave town, right? Like that's the point.
yeah, so that's the one thing. And also, with all the whatever is really going on with these background situations, it's also the question, is it not even relevant that I put in certain safeguards if I even allow anyone to have a certain degree of, let's say, sway over the public or however you would say it. And yeah, again, we can go back to Edward Bernays' propaganda and read it again, which I'm not going to do now, but that's kind of where I rest my case. Then you have
Well,
a
I mean, just
yes,
for like the context of like, it's pretty common in America if you're like trying to get a job to join the Army Reserves. You should watch Pauly Shore and Andy Dick and In the Army Now, where they work in water purification. It's pretty normal. And she didn't work as a prison warden for like a bazillion years in the United States. It's while she was in the army, while she was in Germany, right? And so like I was at the
Which does
Mannheim
not necessarily increase my
prison.
trust in the whole thing from the examples I know, which I'm not going to recount now, but also around US military bases in Germany, really ugly things can be going on, which I don't even
This
want
is
to
true.
mention here. So,
This is true. I mean, it's
um,
very Guantanamo Bay wherever they go. And she does kind of have that photo, doesn't she? Like that.
and yeah, and with the whole background situation, basically the question I want to ask if that's not even like safeguards or whatever, or why certain people got hired with him and all of that, and yeah, so yeah.
Well, I still like them.
It's just that's okay. And also, some people have pointed out that it's kind of a fake smile and strange stare. I would agree. I never really watched his videos, but anyhow. So here, what you have is one another guy coming out from the second this dog pack video. A guy who worked with him. Interesting to see a therapist react to it. Seems genuine enough, but again, everyone make up your own mind. Then there's one more controversy about a guy who says he basically got flown out, stripped for his ideas, sent back, didn't get anything, and then basically all of his ideas were used. I mean, I guess one could say, oh, well, that's standard practice in Hollywood. What did you expect? The funny thing about this was that
I'd probably
briefly,
have to say that, yeah.
briefly he made a 1.7 million GoFundMe for recuperation. Um, uh, yeah, and then he says he's refunding it. But anyhow, interesting video. People latch onto it, but still, I would want to consider. You could say, of course, the drama channels, everyone, sure, they're going to profit off of this if they get a million views or something and you have ads turned on. But I mean, honestly, let's even calculate. Even I should know what you're going to get. So you have, I should know the formula, but it's like a cent or something if you're lucky. No, it's less. It's like a euro. So this guy maybe made 3,000 bucks or something off of this video. Is that
Hmm.
realistic?
Yeah.
3,000? Yeah, I think something like that. So it's not even that much, but even here consider you have all these videos piling up, put them all together, and they still won't come close to a single MrBeast video. Yeah, so just
Yeah.
for the thing. Oh, and then here, for some reason, I brought this up. And oh yeah, actually, why I'm bringing it up is
Oh
why
man.
the F, why the F is this on Microsoft Start? Like, what is going on
Well,
now? Can you explain that to me?
Microsoft Start is aggregating news, and so if you go up a little
Oh,
bit, it
okay.
says that that story's from
Oh, all right.
Into or something.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
So you're
Thank you for
basically
explaining the internet to me. I never used this
it's kind of
website.
no, but it's kind of like looking at Twitter, except
Okay, it
that
only has 900 followers.
instead of looking at social media from your friends, you're looking at like these nonsensical paid journalists. Like this is basically retro. You know what I mean?
Probably AI generated
Like, oh wow,
articles.
yeah, it's all boomer stuff, like, yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense. And then, of course, just to reference it once again, I linked it again. Yeah, here you have the so-called First Lady Boys with Eleanor Roosevelt. Anyone who wants to check it out, it is astounding and disturbing at the same time, I would say. So that's for that section,
Owen
but
Benjamin all
we're
day
not
has been
done yet.
freaking out. You saw that Owen Benjamin was like, "I'm not gay." You know what I'm saying? You see that one?
Why is the first thing I think of when you say that doth protest too much or
That
whatever they say?
I'm not allowed to say that. He's my friend, but I get his point because he got accused of being gay from by Joe Rogan, and so now he's posting all he's like, dude, I mean,
Since when is that an accusation and to what end? Can you explain that to
he's like,
me?
look, it's one thing to be accused of being gay and doing weird stuff in Hollywood. Now, okay, I call people gay sometimes, and that's not necessarily true. And I did some weird stuff in Hollywood, and I accept that. This is like what Owen's saying. But he's like, I didn't do anything gay, and to be called gay by Joe Rogan, and he just starts putting up all these clips of Joe Rogan saying like, I wish I was a woman so I could feel being hammered from behind by a
Um,
real man. And you're like,
yeah,
okay, Joe,
is
okay,
Joe the
Joe.
one to talk? Just saying.
Well, that's what I think is Owen's point. He's like boom, 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 and like it's pretty weird watching Joe Rogan just be like, yeah, dude, just if I could be a woman, it wouldn't be gay because you'd be a woman, so you'd be feeling what they feel for men. You're like, okay, bro. Oh, all right. Like, and good for you, and good for I'm wearing a pink shirt. Good for you, But like, just understand yourself, understand your limits.
Yeah, it seems like what is this glass house analogy or whatever they say? I hope no one gets hurt. What can I tell you?
Owen's adorable, and if he's not bi, he's missing out. Are you kidding me? Look at that. That's what Nicholas is saying, basically. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I think he's just like a 7 or 8 foot tall gorilla, that likes to sing and dance, right? He's like a dancing bear, right? Not everybody can relate. I get that.
That
I get
now
that.
the way you said it now, that doesn't sound gay at all. So I don't
Yeah.
see what the problem is.
Dude, he's a dancing bear. Yeah. To have
To me,
perspective.
it's ridiculous. People even would make a fuss out of it, but anything to distract the masses, I guess. So yeah, we can go on. This is the Tartary section. So again, I still didn't watch it properly again, but I have to rewatch it. Have you seen this already? This whole Janus exploration?
I have not seen this video yet,
Okay, so we
but I do
basically
love
should
Black Sheep.
I should rewatch it and you watch it, and then maybe we can talk about it and see combined with our current understanding. Um, we got what do we got?
Is he bringing up the idea that they're like the twin faced gods, or what's he trying to say about Janus?
Yeah, basically about that, and let's say the relevant of the symbolism and how it may actually be, let's say, the background deity for many things happening. Yeah. Again, I
Mm-hmm.
don't I don't really recall all the points, but I just remember it was quite relevant, and then I lost it, and I just have to rewatch it. But definitely recommend it to check it out.
Yeah, I feel like Janus is important, but probably Hecate is more important, right? Like, so Janus is probably the reduction of Hecate, because Hecate is like the feminine trinity, right? And if you reduce the feminine trinity, you can probably get it to a dynamic, which would be Janus, Janus. That triple head girl, though. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I see,
Hecate,
I
and
see.
then from Hecate to Janus,
And
because they're
also
like, no
totally
more
doesn't look
feminine.
like the Statue of Liberty, right?
Not at all. No,
They
no.
just forgot two heads.
I mean, honestly, America would be way cooler if Hecate was our Statue of Liberty. It would really significantly affect the timeline in a good way.
So what we got next thing, this is even not to hit on anyone, but apparently there is this like,
There
I
should be
don't
a
know.
country song about Zoracle Dax and his truck named Hecate.
This is a fun channel to check out, which is kind of like, I don't know, picking fun of certain individuals. So to anyone who's watching and wants some comedic relief, you can check it out. But I want to more stay on the new stuff that people are publishing. So what we have is a pretty, really, I think, well done video as usual by Mind Unveiled, which explains about the history and the Anti-Masonic Party in America. And let's see, I'm just gonna do it like this so I can put myself like this. Um, and what he's also doing, which I really can appreciate, he's also pointing out the possibility that also this whole supposedly anti-Masonic movement in itself may have been very much controlled opposition. So, again, we have this Hegelian dialectic and God knows what. Also, of course, by now we have to reconsider when were which documents really printed, if the linotype really only came out in around 1890. So how many of these old documents really are
So
old and
what if
original?
the anti-Masonic hysteria is basically in Star Wars where they kill all the Jedi? Think about it. You got all kinds of Americans everywhere with all their lodges, all their private libraries, all of their social cultivated clubs. They're able to defend each other. They have guns. They know how to manufacture these things. What about when they destroy that? Because they say, okay, no more secrets, no more of these lodges. We need to rely on the state. People think, oh well, destroying the family, but the family used to have even extensions, which were these communities, right? And to take them away and to make this giant hysteria so that you had to do what? Join the Democratic Party, join the Union, join these things, right?
Yeah, it was probably just, herding everyone to the next level of control as it is desired. Um, anyway, so this really, really well done. And, also it may, help some people that still don't understand that on certain level there is a uniparty system. I mean, especially in America, but anywhere. Um, so yeah, really well done. Very nice video by Mind and Build in the usual documentary style. Worthwhile to check out.
Yeah,
And
I think
yeah,
it's interesting looking at the Knights of the Golden Circle, like we talked about at some point. Just also how KFC, Pepsi, Co, Frito Lay, these companies sort of corporatist banana republics that realize, there is a point where you're too big for the USA. Like the USA is for a purpose. You get in, you get some sort of a wealth, and then you get out. You're not meant to stay here once you become that kind of elite.
yeah, as you said last show, I think it's for the upper middle class or the middle class to grow up in America and then get out or go back. So, all right, we have of course a new video by Nachiketa together with David, and of course on Andreas's channel from yesterday we had the Master of Worlds conversation. This is actually so recent, and because I was away, I don't think I even watched this properly myself yet. Also featuring some comments, which is always cool. People corroborating the information. David always brings a lot of evidence, so, worthwhile checking out. Then we have, oh yeah, this one. I'm sure you had heard about this idea before, no? This whole question, what's going on with the clowns, we maybe talked about it a little bit. I have to say, I still really haven't figured it out. What's going on between Attack on Titan and whatever these are supposed to be, and the Ainu and all of this. But yeah, someone wanted to reference it again because it's an interesting
Yeah,
topic.
clowns are clearly fierce. And the fact that people have a natural disposition sometimes to be afraid of clowns maybe shouldn't be overlooked. Maybe there really is something there about these ancient warriors who are so terrifying and visual. We equate it with clowns because, like, oh, don't worry, that's not real. It's just a show. You should laugh at it. But at some point, it was like, really, this is how you go into battle with crazy paint on your face.
Yeah, fierce. Then I
Fierce
have
as
a
a clown.
I have a favorite. Guess who it is?
Girl, yeah, this has been my favorite. I was hoping that we were gonna talk about this. I just waited. I was like, oh yeah, yeah, we're gonna do this. It's like every day she gets a little bit closer to us and she strays a little bit further from God. It's great. It's great. No, I mean it's the opposite, right? Because she's getting closer and closer to the truth of God. The more and more she's like, I can't take it anymore. I can't take. Every day I look at these scientists and I realize, well, who am I fighting for? You know what I mean? Like an abusive spouse.
I'm almost wondering, like, should we put this full screen or something so that she gets notified? Because I was just thinking, how can we contact her, Like, make sure to get a copyright notification on her account. She may
Oh my
well
God.
check this herself and then like, who is this Xirtus?
I mean, Sabine, if you're watching this right now, we love you. We love science. We love the enterprise of observation and deductions made through a hypothesis. And we're really impressed with how you stay on that path, even if the world and everyone in the science community deviates from it, right? We admire and respect you, and we hope to talk to you in the future. That's my pitch.
Indeed, we commend you, and also I'd say we agree. We also don't trust all scientists, to
Oh, that
put
that
it
wasn't
mildly.
clear. If that wasn't clear.
And you have to consider, look, even she's getting a tag. So yeah,
Oh my gosh, this might be the end of her.
it's
How many views is on this?
beginning.
Are there less
It's
than a million
beginning.
views? How many views are on this video? Less than a million? Go down a little bit. Holy cow. They gutted her. Half. Half. She's getting half views of what she usually gets now. Look at that. Yeah. Oh man, they're cutting her down.
Oh no.
Look at these. 200,000, 170,000. Well, there we go. 1 million, 1 million. Yeah, you can see it used to be higher. 1.7 million.
No, no, of course, with a video that's called Why I'm Embarrassed to Be German,
With
no
a bloody
problem getting
German flag.
1.7 million views, yeah. That's, I really, one day we will get the complete algorithm. It's probably some AI disassociating system or something crazy. But I really want to see one day what the YouTube algorithm actually really
You know
does.
what,
Because
though?
of course,
Also, the word embarrassed is good. We need to put the word embarrassed in a title more. Like, I'm embarrassed about my ice cream would probably be like, think about it. Think about it. I think I just realized something about, guys, you know what the titles are going to be from now on. I
there
found
we
this
go.
hilarious money trick.
They call it Kaizen, no? Constant improvement, right?
Yeah. Check out this underpants hack.
So now brought to you by JD Vance. Some people maybe know Reese Report from InfoWars. Reese Report actually also did some stuff on Antarctica and Earth, and also actually did a particular report relating to the findings from Stellium 7, which of course is greatly appreciated. There's not many individuals with reach that would do that. And here, so this was also kind of maybe the start or something for the conversation we had yesterday. Um, because basically, like, why the F, what the F is going on? Why do some people think they can play God? Why do some people think that it's great to reduce the population? Is there a real case for that? I mean, we didn't get to discuss a lot yesterday, but at least David Ewing Jr. was able to, to lay out, let's say, just another perspective, which of course is highly appreciated.
Is playing
Oh yeah,
God better than playing the devil?
that's another great question. And then, yeah, would have to ask these individuals who they purport or think themselves to be, an angelic or a demonic being in terms of alignment. Here on this very obscure channel, there's actually mirrored on YouTube this Greg Reese report about Antarctica, which is already from 2019, interestingly enough. So yeah, this guy really puts together very interesting information in a concise fashion, very much worth checking out. Um, then on the conspiracy side, I'm not sure, have you ever heard about the Atlas network? Because
No.
I had not, and I have to look into it properly, but this is apparently one of these interesting groups. I mean, it's irrelevant enough that some sort of halfway, I think, mainstream channel, yeah, because it's funded by the German, how do you call it, PBS or whatever they would say. In Germany there is a system called Funk, and in Funk it's basically they
And
hand out
there's old school funk and
the new school Funk, and they hand out money to YouTubers they consider relevant or want to work with, and those YouTubers then do not produce on their own account anymore, but basically are funded by what is the proper word? I was about to say government propaganda, but like the state media channel, right? Doesn't
public
necessarily
relations
mean
ministry. Yeah.
that, yeah,
Ministry of
truth,
Public
truth,
Relations.
truth ministry
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean that they get editorial guidelines or anything like that. But of course, you could imagine, that the state channel will pick particular types or particular views and so on. As we understand, these things are multi-layered.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so this channel did an expose. The channel is called Der dunkle Parablenritter. And
You remember the South Park influencers auction where they like put up all the people that want to be influencers on the stage and they're like Mattel Toys will give 1 million for you and like Germany and Iceland, Lunchables, all these different companies and then finally like sold to the Chinese government for 150 million. We'll take that streamer. And then he has to just stream whatever they want, right?
so yeah, that is just another one of these groups. I can't say much about it, but I just realized that yeah, it's relevant enough that it has these type of connections. Um, yeah, maybe just some kind of industry group, but I just found it funny that something like this is being brought up on a
Brought to you
channel.
by ExxonMobil. What was it? Pfizer and Michelin. I saw it was
Yeah,
higher up.
Cato Institute. Oh, Federalist Society. That's always a good sign.
Yeah, right.
Um, ah, well, well, well. Um, we have, oh yeah, this is apparently very interesting. This was sent to me by David Beebe. This is who is, I
Oh yeah,
believe,
yeah, yeah,
also
I think I've shown
Chinese.
this on the channel at some point.
You probably have, because I would be surprised if you wouldn't know about this. This is apparently a Chinese nuclear test propaganda video.
Carl didn't wake up. I thought they talked about the Chinese the U.S. mind control. They're like Carl woke up in the military, yeah, and they're like he never is the same again, right?
Yeah, I didn't watch this one yet, but I think something somewhere there was also something about like nuclear testing in China, but maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I mixed it up. Um, right,
Yeah,
and here,
it's an investigation in the CIA's 30-year quest for the discovery and development of a mind control drug.
all right, so this is just a basic, let's say, official MK Ultra,
Yeah.
an
In
LSD
in
experiment information.
79, which is like,
Yeah,
it's pretty good for that point. But
Oh
it's not
yeah.
perfect. It's like obviously also Disney approved because ABC.
So here, just another shout out who's doing interesting stuff is Mindshock. Here, this is interesting, just to understand the basic idea again, where does the term conspiracy come from, this and that. And what's really interesting to me is that to this day, even with the example I gave earlier about this one, so the YouTube channel that did the report on this, they are usually quote unquote debunking the stupid conspiracy theories. But then again, on the other hand, they bring up this thing and it's like, oh look, there is like a real conspiracy. And I just find it almost seems, I'm sure it is not arbitrary in terms of what is actually being investigated honestly and what is not. Maybe it's something spiritual as well, but it's a little bit strange to me how uneven standards usually are applied. Um,
Yeah, that's for sure.
okay,
But you
here
know,
of
I mean,
course,
like just
yes.
in that vein, Disney ABC executive is close friends with Kamala Harris, and it's become like a scrutiny. It's under scrutiny.
Well, he has to be if the JD Vance is invested in Rumble. I mean, you got to get your media outlets together, no?
Yeah, but like, so he's invested in like
Bannon was
modern
Breitbart.
alternatives. Yeah, this is different than like the old school like media wing. But yeah, being associated with Disney directly. Also, it's like you could say, well, Trump had an interview
Well,
with
if
Elon
most
Musk,
of your
right?
voters are in nursery homes or whatever they call it.
Yeah, but if Trump is having an interview with Elon Musk, are they friends or are they not friends because he fired him over the Paris Accord? Questions like that, or he quit over that. Like they got enough. I think it was more that he quit, right? I forget how that goes. If Elon quit or he was fired, but
What
they're
did he
not friends the
quit?
same way.
What did
Well,
Elon quit?
Elon was working for Trump
Oh,
in the
really?
first presidency, and
Oh, really?
he was an advisor or something like that.
I'm sure he
Elon's
was.
role for Trump in 2016, and
I
he
think
quit
Elon Musk
because of
is,
the
is
Paris
most
Accord.
useful in Marvel movies.
Um, I forget. No, he had some sort of an advisement position, and then he said, "Well, I don't want to have anything to do with the guy who walks out on the Paris Accord." And then, like, I think he's changed his mind about that. But everything's always about the bottom line, right? These guys are about money anyway, so I can see that not being a huge deal. Like, he could probably walk that
If I
back.
can make millions by smoking a joint on the Joe Rogan show, I mean, that's something.
Fair enough.
So yeah, to anyone who doesn't exactly believe that all the world is not a stage, always check out Mac Bitter Truth, one of the most hilariously amazing channels. In this case, also going along the line that all the world most likely is a stage, but of course there will be endless new theories or whatever. Although I think the conversation's pretty much died down. I think it's actually been decided, Andreas, by what David Charles Plate said. This all worked out because Trump is using Neuralink. So of course now, as a thank you, he's having a conversation with Elon Musk on X. I
It's
mean,
so coherent.
the coding is all over the place. Um, then someone who is very controversial but has to be brought up again because I think at least from the baseline logic he's delivering, he's pretty much on target. And also, Ike has been one of the few guys who, at the beginning of the whole lockdown scenario, at least in my basic understanding of biology and so on, from the very first day, as I would say, called out the correct answer to the whole thing, which was, let's put it mildly, that there are fundamental issues in the definition and understanding of the whole problem of so-called COVID-19, and that the whole thing would have to be looked at completely differently. And I really watched out the alternative channels when the whole thing went down because it was obvious, okay, now it's happening. I believe myself to have some true understanding about this. And if I apply this now, I'm checking who's saying what. And he was one of the few guys who, as I would say, got it pretty well right from the start, both in terms of what is the, let's say, biological underpinnings of all of this, and also what is the, let's say, larger agenda with all of this. Yeah. So again, regardless of if people go along with any details or particular theories of what he's saying, but I think in terms of basic psychology and basic understanding, um, he's still worth listening to, at least from what I could hear here. This is in this case a translation from a quite known and also infamous conference in Switzerland. They are at least relevant enough that the Swiss national television made, like, some would say slander or whatever, reports against them or against this family or whatever. But yeah, even many years back, this was one of the few places or better production value situations where you could even get any type of alternative information about health or about anything at all. So from that point of view, in the German alternative media landscape, the original one definitely has a place. Then let's see, we got one more thing from Mindshock. I really don't know enough about this, but I just found it interesting. Oh, it's not Mindshock, it's actually Corbett Report. Again, one of these terrorist attacks, like initially we spoke about it, and here you can listen to Corbett, also all kinds of very strange inconsistencies. And I could just recommend anyone who's really interested in these events, study some of them, at least to the extent that it's manageable, and then also apply that knowledge and information to today, because it's not, although it is relevant what happened 100 years ago, and maybe even 200, 300, 500 years ago, it may even be more relevant what's happening today, because that's the plan for tomorrow. And that's, of course, the current emotional shock value and the steering weight that's being applied against the populace. So it's good to be up to speed in terms of what happened decades ago. It's even better to apply that knowledge and understanding and heuristics to whatever is happening today. That's what I would say. There we have another mind shock thing. I was actually waiting for something like this. 1 hour simply or 2 hours simply going through a basic logic and fallacies, and then whether you agree with analysis or not, it's worthwhile to understand these in basic debate and conversation, just not to make logic mistakes. If logic still is a thing, to me, or maybe to many people, it's quite intuitive. And even if someone doesn't know what is the exact name of the fallacy, if you listen closely to someone, you can usually tell, like, okay, is this a real argument, or is there something wrong, some kind of a diversion, ad hominem, false equivalency, or however else they are called. Then also, interestingly enough, talking about the whole attempt, Austin has done a video about this. He seems to be in line with Mac Bitter Truth in terms of all the world is a stage. I would also agree with that for the most part. And then this was brought up, I believe, in a Mindshock video. I didn't know about this. I'm not sure if you know about this. Last time I brought up G.M. Müller and the 100 years of critique against the special relativity. Are you familiar with this guy, and that he apparently also had fundamental criticism regarding Newton? Are you familiar with this guy?
No, I don't suppose so. Jeff Amenko, like a flamenco. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, first when they brought it up, it was like, oh, they talk about Fomenko and they can't pronounce his name. But no, there is another very interesting Russian who did fundamental critique towards the West. And I just find it kind of amazing that you have some of these Russian sages that, at least seem to give a fundamentally opposing view to whatever the West is spewing out. In this case, in terms of, relativity or Newtonian physics, gravitational theory, and in Fomenko's case, of course, in terms of chronology. And yeah, again, then whatever you want to believe, I think it's really good to at least know an opposing view exists that is quite based, I guess people would say today.
I mean, so it says that he was working to expand Newton's gravitational theory to
Yeah,
time-dependent
that's the way they put it
systems.
here.
So it's
Yes.
not that he was really working against it. They're saying there's no reason for abandoning Newton's force field gravitational theory, but that if you could figure out how it's dependent on this particular time-dependent system, it would be different in different time-dependent systems, right? So he's talking about retardation of electromagnetic frequency for actually controlling time, which is, we talked earlier about like space, star-based radiation time. This idea that time is defined by the radiation caused by stars. So then that would be probably this theory that there are different densities, there are different frequencies, they're not always the same time space. And we could augment our understanding of that based on how this Newtonian system works for us now. Because Newtonian gravitational theory, on one hand, is saying something kind of silly, which is that, well, we know what things are like, therefore everything else we know what it's like. We can assume the rest of all things that we've never experienced because of what we have experienced. But the part that does make sense is saying, hey, this is what we experience, right? So there's something to Newtonian gravitational theory, as long as you don't present it as an answer, but rather as an observation.
Yeah. I wish everyone was as nuanced as you are, Andreas.
Aw, babe.
So we have a Bible quote. I'm usually not a Bible thumper, but did you even know? Did you even know? Revelation 9:11, New International Version. They had as king over them the angel of the abyss, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon and in Greek is Apollyon, that is, destroyer. And when
Yep.
I put this, because it somehow reminded me of this quote below a post from Didier Lacapelle, whom we also had an interview with on Andreas's channel. First thing he wrote was like Napoleon question mark, and literally it took me like 2 or 3 minutes to even like, what? Why Napoleon? What? I was like, oh, if you just switch the letters
Yeah.
around a little bit, yeah,
Or not
could be
even
the
like you just
same.
have N as a N apostrophe, so like nomenclature for like
Napoleon.
nominated Apollyon. Yeah, Napoleon.
So this is interesting, especially if we would consider the Bible as a book of historical value and potentially, at least to some extent, recounting historical events. Then that's very, very interesting. I would love to know who this really refers to, because then just as a, absolute going on a tangent here right now, but if we understand that Napoleon as presented is a forged together amalgamated historical figure that obviously today is being used to obfuscate and control history, then this could also be that this time or this happening, both in terms of actual happenings and wars and destructions, and also then the obfuscation, is quite fundamental. And therefore, up to this day, the main deity to be revered within the quote unquote New World Order, for lack of a better term, would be Apollyon or Napoleon, the Lamb Prophet, Napoleon, even with the Olympic Games. Um, because that is maybe a vital element in the whole plot. Can you catch my drift? You're muted.
Yesterday we talked a bit about how the Olympics were banned by Theodosius, right? Theodosius was against the any sort of pagan um, tradition. So I don't know, for like 1700 years Christians banned the Olympics. So I mean, I don't know, it could be because they think the Olympics are bad for presenting the greatest of their tribe, but I don't really see it that way. I think it's really kind of weird that the Christians are. It's not. I think Abad is meaning the ender or like the finisher of things, and so it also has to do with like Shoal. So I don't think it necessarily has to be a human king that they're referring to. But at the time, a lot of people say that they're referring to Caesar, or was it
Well,
Nero?
even just the end of the old order, whatever this means exactly, as a concept or as an amalgam idea. Because if it is true that there is, I mean, the hint, of course, one hint potentially, and I didn't even realize this until recently, is on the Russian flag, where you apparently have the, I almost want to say, Apollonic rider, um, piercing through the Tartarian dragon. And I'm just saying, if there is an event or a concept in history that is relevant to me today, which allowed me to build my new order, of course I would put that as the main deity. That's the lines along which I'm thinking. I have no idea, but it's just the thoughts that come up for me. Can you
The
see what I'm
fact that
saying?
Abaddon is used so often in the Old Testament, though, it seems like it's like an Isaiah kind of symbol that they're saying that this is the angel Abaddon, right? So like the father of death or the father of destruction, Abad. So I don't think it's necessarily associated with a particular person. But then you could say a person says, "I want
No,
to be
no.
like Magog." Like George W. Bush is like,
I'm
"I'm
I'm
like
saying
Magog,"
I'm
right?
not particularly tying it to one individual person, but more to like an event or a series of events or a process happening, and then I associate particular individuals with it, but also
Hmm.
particular deity. And then, of course, if that is important for me to build a new order, and that is the main thing that allowed me to end the old order, then of course, continually, every year, every 4 years, I would celebrate that, maybe in an occult fashion as it's done now, but I would put that symbol there. And I'm
In
only
rabbinical
referencing,
culture, Abaddon is a realm of like a hell realm where the damned lie in fire and snow. and Moses visited. That's a trip. I don't know. Fire and snow seems pretty brutal at the same time, right?
A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah, right. Huh. Yeah, I feel like there's something to that for sure. The idea of Abaddon. And also just that it's the father of destruction is probably also like kind of like Shiva. So like maybe it's like the completer, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's another one. At least they put it up on in CERN. So yeah, just a hint. I can't make much more of it. Maybe have to talk with more religiously minded scholars about this. But I'd love to know more about what this is supposed to mean exactly. And of course, yeah, and sorry, just to point it out again, this is Revelation 9:11,
Right.
and it's not a random, chapter. It's 9:11, so I can only assume that this has particular relevance. If we know how many dates are coded 9/11, 11/9, all around 19, um,
A
yeah,
lot. Leo of
a lot.
Oswald's
Are you saying a
D-
lot? A lot?
a lot. Atar Ata Ataraxia.
Yes. So in the line
I've been
of
using apocatastasis a lot. Thank you.
right, so that's why, because I was like, oh, it's another interesting term. You're gonna like this one. Maybe you wanna read it for a second while I'm totally gonna clean my glasses if that's okay.
No,
Give me a second.
that's allowed. Ataraxia, from indicating negation or absence, interact to disturb, trouble with the abstract noun. Generally is translated as unperturbedness, imperturbability, equanimity, or tranquility. Is a lucid state of robust equanimity, equanimity, characterized by ongoing freedom from distress and worry. Sorry, it's like really small on my screen, but it's okay. In non-philosophical uses, ataraxia was the ideal mental. Okay, now I just can't even. All right, bring it back, bring it back. It was fun. I just had to squint a little bit. I was gonna get there. Ataraxia was the ideal mental state for soldiers entering battle. Achieving ataraxia is a common goal of Pyrrhonism, Epicureanism, and Stoicism. But the role and value of ataraxia within each philosophy varies in accordance with their philosophical theories. The mental disturbances that prevent one from achieving ataraxia also vary among philosophies, and each philosophy has a different understanding as to how to achieve ataraxia. In Pyrrhonism, ataraxia is the intended result of an epoch, suspension of judgment regarding all matters of dogma, non-evident belief, which represents the central aim of Pyrrhonism or Pyrrhonist practice that is necessary to bring about eudaimonia.
Now that's
How
a
about
nice
that?
term. Eudaimonia, sometimes anglicized, okay, so on and so forth, a Greek word literally translating to the state or condition of good spirits, and which is commonly translated as happiness or welfare. Now that's a nice term. So why I'm bringing this up, just whatever one may think about ancient Greece or not, but many of the concepts are quite interesting, and I would love to know, who exactly thought of those and who was importing which ideas, what was their background ideology. Maybe there is also competing ideas. I mean, at least officially here you have, I guess, competing philosophical schools debating in ancient Athens. Maybe it was rather in Istanbul, but I'm sure somewhere debated somewhere with someone, or was thinking of these ideas or trying to philosophize and find truth and wisdom. And just in terms of all the conspiracies, I wanted to point out this term, maybe something to strive for, not to be too perturbed by all the insanity going on. I mean, even just, watching the news can be insane enough. And also the little bit that I did read of Epicurus was actually really, really nice. I think oh no, sorry, not Epicurus, but what I can recommend is the Nicomachean Ethics, I believe it's called. That's one of the few, let's say, philosophy books that I found were pretty decent.
Hmm.
The little bit that I had read from it, but I got a very special translation with these philosophy books. I mean, like with any books, it's always important to get a very good translations, otherwise it's easy to get lost. Uh, get lost. In with this Nicomachean ethics, to anyone who understands German, which I know already is a stretch, but still, there is some obscure variant originally printed in the German Republic, how do you call it? DDR, which was the Democratic Republic of Germany. For some reason, they managed to get an edition which is amazingly pleasant to read and makes total sense. Whereas if you get the standard version that you can get right now at any store, it's unreadable basically. So yeah, just a heads up to anyone who wants to dive into these things, even in English or whatever, really check for different translations. Ideally, of course, also if they would change the content or meaning in any way, but also even just if they are readable at all. Because there is, especially with these type of texts, there's apparently crazy differences in terms of how accessible a book then actually becomes. All right, Andreas, we only have a few more things left in terms of health-related stuff, let's say. So I know, and I'm kind of jealous, Julia did a show together with Ganwu about parasites, and we totally still got to do something, along those lines. I'm not sure if you've seen it. Let's see if I can actually find her. Oh wow, there we go. So they did she did something on the benefits of garlic, but also I know she did something on here, Raiders of the Lost Parasite. So definitely worth checking
Nice.
out. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but we got to do more on this kind of topic because many talk about it in like a woo-woo sense, this and that. Um, but unfortunately, there is also, how should I say, a reality to
Just
that
saw
kind of thing.
Julia recently. We got to do another show. She's been doing some pretty awesome stuff as well. And then Gunwoo, I think we're planning on doing something. I just talked to him yesterday and this morning. And every time we're trying to schedule something, but his sleeping pattern is invariably variable.
Well, okay, here is something in French recommended to me, but this is something I still have to check out. Um, also about bioelectricity and potentially the salts, but this may be something else because there is one video recent, yeah, this one. This is really, really interesting. So Steve Falconer, anyone who knows about him or Spacebusters, has done some great stuff, especially also during the whole sea crisis. Also was one of the few guys who was very much spot on very early and did really, really great documentaries. During it, they were mostly hosted on Odyssey. YouTube didn't take too kindly to this type of presentations at that point. But yeah, did some really, really great stuff. And here what he's talking about, in German you call it Schüsslersalze. These are like 12 particular mineral salts that are vital to the body. And here the theory goes that you are potentially deficient, especially in those salts during the months during which you were not quote unquote incubating, gestating within your mother's womb. And this can be worthwhile to check out. The little feedback that I got independently already was positive, that it seems to check out if you correlate, the potential issues and so on. And this may really help someone who's, looking to maybe change their diet or
You weren't
something or
made out of that
supplements.
that season's stardust. You needed all that extra stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really crazy if this is true. It's also kind of sad because why doesn't then it just take 12 months and everyone can be like complete? Or what is the higher logic behind this? What's going
The
on?
jet over your head sounds way nicer than the American jets, doesn't it? It's like, see, I feel like I would be safer in that thing than an American plane.
I think this is only a passenger airplane. I would assume, but
Ooh, sounds clean.
yeah. So this is, yeah, really interesting, worth checking out. Also, there's a book behind this which is linked somewhere, um, worth checking out. Then here, oh yeah, okay, we got this. Let's
Oh
see.
man, yeah.
We had the ladybuzz earlier, and here just to point it out that
Yeah, I didn't mean to say oh man, yeah. I just meant like oh dude, yo.
these things exist, and I guess you've spoken about it a lot on the channel also. How should I say? Just to consider how people are encouraged to do certain things which may not be easily reversible, but have tremendous effect on their biological and mental health and so on. So yeah, and here interesting that actually it's kind of funny because I don't 100% trust this channel either, but Andrew Gold has done shows together with Sean Atwood, also one together with actually Dave Weiss and Professor Dave. Oh my God. Yeah, if people want to see it, they can go watch that. But this Andrew
It's gonna
Gold
be
guy
fun.
apparently is ex-BBC, like British Broadcasting Corporation guy, which would also be state television, and now he's doing this podcast stuff. So yeah, I'm sure many things interesting. Um, I'm not exactly sure if
I
this
do
is
think it makes sense that like people who work in media continue to make media. Like especially,
yeah, yeah,
if you
but
used to work
it's
for like a
it's
big
just
company and
like
now you work for yourself and you're
it's
doing like
just
your
like
own
if you
show, you're like,
believe, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
it's just like if you believe that Tucker Carlson going over to X means that he's completely relieved of whatever real contract he has, you know?
I
And
don't know, but like his
yeah,
content's different and like it's kind of
sure,
interesting. He's
of
doing
course,
like
but
he's
what
like
you
going on
have,
Kill Tony and all
but
these like he's
what you
in that
have,
group.
I can't talk about him specifically, but what you have with people like Russell Brand is then they talk about, superficial level information
Yeah.
that had been revealed 20 years ago, make a big fuss. Everyone
Well,
is like, wow,
they were already doing
but
the dude worked on Fox. You know what I mean? Like he was already doing that. Like he was just talk. He was basically like, let's bring on some idiot who's insane, and I'll stare at them funny while we like let them ramble on about how bad of an argument they have for their whole life. That was his show for a long time. And like, yeah, you tell them, you show them how stupid they are. At this point now, he's at least got the capacity to do content he wants to do content about, even though that content is very specific. Like you said earlier, like X content is specific. Like the Rogan, like I think Rogan is pushing further now that he's off of his Spotify contract. Like he's pushing back to do more X stuff, right? Like that's basically where it's all going. Is there's gonna be like that's what Elon's very much positioning himself to be, like the YouTube after dark, this alternative, to YouTube. Yeah, I think he's
oh
directly
yeah.
X's are directly positioned to win against YouTube and Rumble. And Rumble's interesting, but because they're making like alliances first, like it's going to be interesting to see how strong um of a brand they can build, because they're also being pushed like directly as oppositional. So like also Rumble is working with X in their lawsuit against Google, right? You know about the antitrust lawsuit.
Yeah, again, the how should I say, the controllers playing on the playground. Yeah, so
One thing's for sure, like all of this is going to lead towards a solution where your content's going to be less prohibited from being seen, like your kind of content. There might be other kinds of content that are more prohibited from being seen, but the things we're making stand to be benefit from this.
I guess we'll see. Yes, it will be interesting to see.
I guess your point is you're planning on challenging the next thing then, right? Like, all right, well now we'll get to like criticize.
No, no.
Let's bite the hands that feed us, right? Always.
Well,
Nom nom
you
nom.
know, if the hand was purely feeding without poisoning also, then I would not take any issue. But it's a complex thing, and of
So
course,
Austrian. Okay,
not
fair enough.
accusing anyone, but I mean, from so far, the platform I like the most, as we even agree on, is Odyssey. But you see where that is. People still don't even know it exists. So what to say?
Yeah.
Um, Here, because we had it brought up last time again, David BB, just the references. This is for vitamin A isolation. Yes, this is the one for vitamin
Wait,
A.
real quick, I had to do this. The police are helping the gangs. West Side Story. Okay, I'm good.
Um, just something to investigate in terms of also here how vitamin A was actually isolated and what science is this based on. So this is something I won't talk about too much because I also have to investigate and understand more. I only know that, for example, last time we spoke about the thing with DNA, and there also Stefan Lanka has written a paper on this already in 2008 called Erbgut in Auflösung, where he was also challenging the model of DNA, whether it's entirely correct. And all I can say, Lanka, from the track record and also recent things, is he brought him up so often because he ordered um, the independent test for the basic assumption of virology in terms of how it is defined and isolated. I'll not repeat it now, but I know from what I understand also logically and experientially. He has a really good track record. So if Stefan Lanka is also channeling the DNA model, I'd really take a very close look to anyone at least who's into biochemistry. And on recent shows with Nachiketa, also David Beebe discussed this. And also, which I think is not entirely wrong, he said that for many individuals, maybe particular atheists, then religion was swapped out from believing in God or something to basically believing in biochemistry. And here all I can say is from a friend who's
Vita Mineral is not a
yeah,
real brand. Yeah.
from a friend who's investigated this with the whole grain thing. I brought this up before, so we have
Vital
called
mineral is like an interesting thought in of itself. If we started saying vital minerals, then we have to define what we mean by vital, right? And also, vitamins are not really minerals, but they're, minerals help. I think that's kind of the thing is a lot of people were studying these mineral springs.
I mean, you mean natural mineral springs?
Right, natural mineral springs, and like, well, there's high concentrates of magnesium or these things here, and that these things are causing vital minerals. And so, what we should say is that these products that we have, like milk, for instance, milk, does it have those vital minerals in it? And there was a clerical error in the amount of magnesium, or I forget what calcium. Like, there's something they looked at and they like 10x'd it, the number that it was. They read it as an actual place, and they moved the decimal, and they're like, wow, milk must just be like literally metal, like this
Oh
crazy.
my God.
And they're like,
How
that must be,
retarded. Yeah,
how is
sure.
it possible that it
I'm
has
sure it was a
this much mineral? It must be a vital mineral that's holding all of this calcium inside of it.
clerical
Clerical error.
error.
Yeah.
Clerical is also such an interesting
Oh
term.
man, like spinach and Popeye. Yeah, spinach isn't that good for you
Cleric's
either,
error.
right?
So now you right.
Yeah.
So conductivity, mineral springs. What's
Right.
important
So
here with water?
in the mineral springs, what happens is you have these acid flumes underground that are burning off all of this material, and as the heat, when the acid's like liquid hot touches the water, if there's like water from rainwater that's come down, and all of a sudden it saturates, you make this extreme heat. It's not even that hot until the water hits it. Then all of a sudden it's creating between the two the steam, this pressure, and that lifts up all these mineral springs because it's water mixed with these super small water soluble colloidal even pieces of minerals, and minerals are all kinds of elements. This is how they're extracting gold right now. They're like, wow, we're finding water flumes of gold laden mineral water in Wyoming and in Kazakhstan, and we're just putting a little building over it so no one can get access to it, and we're sucking the water out of it and making gold bars, right? But
People should
clearly,
probably actually drink it and use it as fertilizer. But yeah.
yeah, or
So
like just leave the hole there so that it every once in a while shoots gold all over the world.
yeah.
Yeah. But like it's
So
not just gold, there's also all kinds of other minerals. And like we go to Germany and Austria, you'll find what's it called? What's the best mineral water in Germany, man?
anyone
Svelter
You mean the
mineral
best
water.
carbonized water? So there is something to say about the conductivity, which is usually important. And also you have
Selter. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, you have
Seter. You know what I'm talking about here.
centers, yeah.
Selter in Germany is a place in the Taunus, right, where their symbol includes water, right, and there's like 400-year-old water slide parks made by mad, insane Prussians and Germans that
And built
like
by the Pope, apparently.
there's the water fountains that have mineral water in them, and it's bubbly. And, you got pumps in front of every house, and people used to come here because in some towns you drank the water, and there'd be poop in it, and you'd die. And in other towns you drink the water, and there'd be gold in it, and you'd live a long time. And so now people bottle water, mineral water, and Germany drinks 90% more. Germany, you think of as a beer country, they actually drink a lot more seltzer water, like mineral water, is actually like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 10 times as much consumption in Germany as beer is itself. So it's more of a mineral water country than even a beer water country. And
Yeah,
yeah,
so
it's good for you.
for these things, it's really important to actually check and test them because it
Yeah, and
seems
so that's the other thing.
from
In
what I
Germany,
understand, also the past years, many of the springs that were very good, unfortunately, are not anymore. So there is something to say about water purification. And then with water purification and filters, which I was astounded are quite popular in the US, because I guess there you literally shouldn't drink the water, right?
Right.
In Germany or in Austria, in many
Well,
places,
most places, yeah.
it has quite a decent quality, the tap water. But yeah, water purification, then there is an interesting war going on inside the water purification business between those that say you need reverse osmosis, which removes all the minerals, and those who say you need some other type of filtration, those who say you need frequencies, or those who say you should really only, recreate some natural processes like sedimentation, like it's going through the mountain, or the vortexing, that it's spinning like it would be in a river. So there's different approaches. But one main thing really seems to be, as you mentioned initially, the conductivity and probably what kind of minerals are in the water. And I just find it interesting that in reverse osmosis, people say that they want nothing inside the water and almost anything is regarded as a pollution.
This is killing me. Basically, when you're in Germany and you go up to one of these signs and it tells you like, here's all the metals that are in the water, and it looks something like this, but it's like laser etched into the side of the sign. Usually it's like a steel sign, right? And it tells you like barium, calcium, chloride in the parts per million of sulfates, and it'll have like a health warning that tells you like you can drink, yeah, like you can drink this amount, and but usually in German, like you can drink this amount of water from this place a day, maybe like 4 bottles, or it's completely safe to drink this water. There's no problem. Or another other water where they're like, you shouldn't drink that water. But a lot of the time, the water you shouldn't drink, they still, I mean, even then, it tells you what is in the water, and they're like, yeah, admittedly, the reason we don't want you to drink is because there's like 120 parts per million of radium, and theoretically, everyone tells you shouldn't drink radium, so we're telling you shouldn't drink radium, right? So at least you know what's in your water, and you can go around and you can fill it up with your own little bottles, right?
Oh yeah, you
That's
can.
nice.
I would still do my own tests, but
Yeah.
definitely you can.
I get the feeling though, if you're going to like one of those parts of Germany, it's probably fine. You know what I mean? Like
I mean,
it's
again,
the, it's the cities. You go to like the mineral water part, and like, that's where like these like bankers want to have their mineral
I
water.
mean, the issue is you have general, public purification plans. There are certain processes they use. There are certain things they do filter, certain things they don't. Different
Right.
technologies applied. I wouldn't trust it. And from what I know, there is one town that's infamous, close to Neuburg in Austria, where there's the highest concentration of cocaine in the tap water or whatever. So
You know what? Where's this dude Andong? Have you seen the Andong guy? This guy here. Have you seen his channel? Andong has some video. I think he's German. I don't know if he's actually German, but he lives
because
in Germany,
generally
right?
also carbonizing water is not necessarily making it more palpable for the human body, from what I understand.
Yeah, well, our one Greek friend, George or Greg. Who is it? We have one friend who says that. One friend. Just
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah, it's only one. Yeah, yeah. Don't listen.
Okay. This guy goes to all of these different mineral springs, and I would encourage you to do too. Here's a sign, Lexi, and it shows you like chloride and whatever's in the water. That's what you can go check it out yourself. You're in Austria, like I'm sure in Austria, not just Germany, you're gonna find these Landgrafenbrunnen telling you about what is in the water, bro. And yeah, some of it's gonna be like salty, and you're not gonna want it because it's too salty. That's gonna be the main things like mineral water, vital minerals are salts, like you were talking about from the zodiac thing. So
So I heard that everyone loves to do this and everyone claims that their water is the best or something. And I'll be the first to say I'm filtering this water and it's a lot better if I filter it, but I can drink it without dying. It's the water in Vienna. Um,
mm.
Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Also, the
Oh,
carbonation. Not only some water is natural carbonation. So like a lot of
of
that water
course.
won't have
You
natural
usually
carbonation.
you
It's just
get
minerals.
sparkling water, which is carbonized up with whatever. So here, anyhow, you have this thing supposedly built by, or it's called at least after Kaiser Franz Josef, who was also the guy who only, this may even be the same year, 1873 started tearing down as I would say it now, Stafford Wall, the Linienwall. So anyhow, here they explain to how you have these lines, and it actually is quite amazing that Vienna does have very decent water, especially from those two main lines, but still, have issues with the pipes. like I said, with the purification, this and that. But generally speaking, I would say the water in Vienna has quite high quality, but still filtering it, even with the most simple of coconut-based, let's say charcoal type filter, just a very thin sheet, very simple, and still it tastes a lot better and smoother and so on. So yeah, there's
Yeah, I'm
still
sure
too
if you
much
want to
stuff or
take
whatever.
out the big particles.
Yeah, something like that, at least that, yeah, and yeah. So that's what we got. And let's see. Then here, I'm not sure where I pulled this up again. Yeah, anyone who's into flour, um, this is a cool thing to understand. Maybe we had Michael on. I would think
We
we
did,
should have.
and we
We
should
did.
actually probably talk about it again sometime, but just the importance of having the full wheat germ and how they are like circumcising your grains, bro.
Exactly. And just because initially you talked about gold in the water, and basically here he called it gold keim, yeah, like gold seedling. But yeah, basically you got all the gold here. And regularly, if you get regular bread, they completely remove everything that's valuable and leave you with nothing. Just like they like to do with salt. Of course, as you know, table salt only has two minerals. Real salt has like 90 plus minerals. And guess which is goes better on the body, or why then so many people are like, oh, I'm not allowed to eat any salt. No, you just shouldn't eat any table salt, but nobody should. So yeah, I mean should. No health advice here. This is all purely
Well,
anecdotal
keep going for a
imagination.
second. I'll be right back.
Yes. Here, another thing in French, which I got recommended to me. I put it in the list, but I still have to watch it. And then,
Check this out. So I got. Oh, really? It's not gonna work, is it? I got this. This is impossible. I got a bag of Himalayan looking pink salt
oh,
on
it's
the internet
blocked,
here,
but yes,
but it's not from like the Himalayas. I think it's from
mountain.
I think it's from Pakistan. I was
That
trying to figure that out,
that
and I was
could
like,
technically be Himalayas also, no?
it is. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not like Tibetan or something like that. So it's like Pakistani, right? And so I looked into the
You mean it's
village.
not a war crime to import or something? Or
No, like I
social
love
credit score
supporting. I
okay?
love. I'm just one of those guys who loves to support like small businesses, even if they're in Pakistan. I
Right.
see that. I saw the picture of it, and I got really excited. I was like, look at these kids like playing in the pink salt like ground outside, and like it reminded me of Bolivia. And I was like, you know what? That's where I want to send my money. That's where I want to get my salt. I want to feel like them. I want them to feel good. So yeah, get yourself some Pakistani salt.
Sounds good.
It's pinker than the Tibet. I think it's better than the Chinese salt, right? Think about it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, actually, I want to leave on a high note, but let's see. We can go through. So, yeah, here, just something interesting. I know you did shows with Royal Rife Technologies and so on. Just again, this idea, which strangely enough is here hosted on YouTube, about maybe potentially there could be a relation between certain cells and certain frequencies. Maybe even the explanatory model here is not necessarily the thing how it is, but the thing is, how should I say? From what I understand and the feedback that I know of, you can do a lot with frequency in many cases. And it's not really being talked about a lot. And the frequency I'm talking about is not radiation therapy, but can be high amplitude. We had healing and balance on. It can be low amplitude, which can, do all kinds of effects or help the body to kickstart all kinds of processes. So that's, I think, worthwhile checking out. Anyone who's really into health, check out the frequency stuff, both also the sound healing and so on,
I thought it was
uh,
really funny when I was at the
and also this type of tech. Yes?
Minneapolis Science Museum, and they had like a quackery floor where they talked about all like the horrible, crazy kinds of science that don't work. And they had a Rife machine, and
Oh, nice.
they had like a frequency and like a chromotherapy thing. I was like, y'all know this is like the real stuff, right? Like, because we're wearing masks during lockdown, and I think they're like, yeah. Like they didn't even have to, like we get it, right? We do. The quackery floor is the real floor.
The
Okay.
quack, quack, quack. Quacks like a duck. So, of course, I'm not showing this, but I'm just showing the intro. Again, it's on Odyssey. I brought this up before. I even demonstrated this on my own phone. I'm just bringing this up because recently I've been talking to some individuals where I would think, of course, naively, I always think that they are up to speed to some things at least. but so many people still are not. So anyone who's wondering why, if you on your Samsung or Android enable developer settings and activate unidentified Bluetooth signals, so many signals appear to be floating around, this may give you some hints. This is basically a documentary study by some Spanish scientists, if I'm not mistaken, and they are demonstrating what's going on and not mentioning more about this because this topic still may not be too welcome on here. Although I don't know who said this. Did you talk about this or no, somewhere else? You talked about this in terms of will the YouTube policies change now that the former CEO has died suddenly and unexpectedly, if you know what I mean?
I feel like there has been a big shift, but we'll see soon because the antitrust case and everything. And I don't know. We didn't want to. It was really funny that people said a few years ago, hey, there's going to be a changing over of the old guard and it'll be kind of quiet because that kind of thing could completely destroy the economy. And the economy's already going to go through a crazy thing for it. And then all
What
of it
could destroy the economy?
changeover of the guards, like replacing all of these CEOs. If you remember, like the kinds of information that like there's those people on 4chan and all of these the Q stuff. They're like, there's gonna be a thing that's gonna come. You should have a bunch of food ready because like the world might shut down. And that was all before, to be fair, the quarantine and the lockdown. So some people said, hey, look, the lockdown kind of proves this point that the Q people were saying that there is this kind of changeover of the old guard, which is going to happen silently, And I'm not saying this is what really happened, but it is interesting. There were a lot of changeover of CEOs, and there are a lot of former CEOs and guards, we could say, who are dead now, including rather recently, and also included was like the son of the former. I don't know how far we should go with this. You know what I mean? What do you want to do?
I'm good. I'm good. Everything was said.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely interesting. And that's at the same time as her death, God rest in peace, whatever we're supposed to say, that the antitrust case is happening with Elon and Rumble. Because superficially, you've got both Trump put in the judges that are going to be and kind of there is an energy that came in during the presidency of Trump that's pushing for that antitrust case. That couldn't have existed without him being president already. But also, that could be shut down by Kamala Harris if she was president. So if Trump comes in to presidency again, they're aligned with him.
Who is president in America right now?
Nobody. And I've been saying that for a while. I've been saying that for long before the debates. I was like thinking like automation, Raph, automation. Like think about how much of a flex. It's like a little chihuahua in Paris Hilton's arms. We're like, look, we can have an old guy who sleeps most of the time standing there. This is how well regulated this engine is. It can just run. It's like a rich guy in a car that drives itself.
Yes, it's all thanks to the, what do you call it, the SES, no? Special Executive Service and all the middle management, and then the term that's apparently even banned in the US Senate, which is called continuity of government. I know on YouTube you can say it because Doc Journalist talks about it all the time. Yeah.
I think you're allowed to say. I think you have to talk about continuity of government.
Of course, it's the most
That's the
important
most
thing for
American
the
thing,
democratic, American, Republican, democratic success.
Yeah.
Well, much love to everyone. I'm done for today. Thank you, Andreas.
Oh boy. Ziggurats is like, don't be coy, Andreas. Like, bro, like where are we at with this? Like you realize how it works now, right? Like we're gonna walk the tightrope across the Twin Towers. That's how it's gonna go. I don't know. How about this version?
David Andreas.
Just tested it's your voice.
That's you gotta train it on what you got, bro.
Indeed, yeah. Release early, release often.
We have a show in like 2.5 hours. So
Let's see. If I'm not joining, I'll be watching.
Flamenco, flamenco,
flamenco, flamenco.
flamenco, flamenco. Flamenco, flamenco.
If nothing but to entertain and maybe give a good idea. Thank you, Andreas, and thanks everyone.
See you guys.
Enjoy.